Hey everybody, I'm Dane Sanders. I want to welcome you to Fast Track Coaching. This is an episode that I've been looking forward to for a long time, and I'll get to that in just one second. But if you've not been to Fast Track Coaching before, let me give you a little bit of explanation as to how this whole thing works. Basically, this is my dream come true. I get to have conversations with some of my favorite photographers on the planet and creative people, professionals in various industries, especially photography, and I get to invite them into a dialogue that you get to basically listen in on and participate with. And today's no exception. And today's a great story because it came true because of the wonderful world of the internet. A while back, I was hanging out at a party at WPI, and I had a chance to run into some amazing guys who run a remarkable website that I'm sure you all know called fstoppers.com. And and then eventually they decided to feature one of our interviews from Fast Track Coaching on their site with me and Trey Ratcliff. I went on their site to find out more about them, and I should have known a lot more about them because they're amazing. It's a remarkable resource. And while I was there, I was hanging out on the site, and I came across this thing about this guy named Peter Hurley, and he had this headshot promo video for 20 minutes. And by the way, don't do it now because you'll be bummed you missed our conversation. But I clicked on the link, watched all 20 minutes, reached out to Peter directly, eventually got my hands on the DVD itself, watched all 4 hours. Phenomenal. And this guy is the real stinking deal, and I'm really pleased to have you on the show, Peter. So welcome to Fast Track Coaching.
Thanks for having me on, Dane. I really appreciate it as well.
Well, it's been fun to get to know you, and Providence allowed us, like a week later, you're in LA for something, and we get a chance to actually grab a beer and hang out a little bit. And I got to tell you, when I think of a headshot photographer, I didn't think what you do was possible at the level that you do it. I mean, it's remarkable, the professionalism, the care, the concern, and ultimately your commitment to the interaction with the actual subject is what is most striking to me, and how you get such consistent, remarkable, stylized looks with really a basic setup. Talk a little bit about your journey into the photo industry over the last decade and what got you to land with doing headshots for a living.
Well, I started out I was training for the Olympics in sailing. I was a sailor, and I had a designer from Donna Karan send me over to Ralph Lauren, and I did a polo ad campaign. I also got sponsored by DKNY for the Olympics in sailing. So I had DKNY on my sail, I had a bunch of clothes and stuff. So I kind of got into fashion a little bit that way. The photographer on the shoot was Bruce Weber. Bruce and I became friends. I did Abercrombie and Fitch. I did Italian Vogue. I did a bunch of different shoots with him. And he kept saying, pick up a camera. And I have no idea why. I don't know what he saw in me, if he saw anything, or if he just told everybody to pick up a camera. I was like, why are you telling me to pick up a camera? I don't know anything about photography. And then I did pick up a camera, and I became the most annoying model on set. So, and I'm kicking myself in the butt for 5 years of modeling. I didn't pay any attention to what the photographers are doing, and I shot with some of the best in the world. I had a mediocre career. I guess I got to do a lot of jobs, but it wasn't enough to make a living in New York. So I was the model, actor, bartender dude. And I just decided at one point I left New York, went to train for the 2000 Olympics, because this was really, it started out in 96.
And 2000 was in Sydney, right?
Yeah, Sydney. So I went to Sydney, I trained a little bit, I made the US team, and I went, got to go there, but only the first guy competes in the actual Olympics. So I actually didn't get to compete in the Olympics, which was, unfortunate, but it was cool. I mean, I ended up coming back to New York, and I decided I'm not going to go hang out in a bar anymore. I was like, I can't do it till 4 in the morning. And I went, my girlfriend at the time was a model, and she was going to Europe. And I was like, I got nothing to do. I'm going to follow you. And Bruce was in Spain, and I hung out with him at his place, and he's like, go get a camera. I went back to Madrid, picked up a camera, started shooting my then girlfriend, now wife, and she was my muse for a while, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I remember I bought a Mamiya 645 with a Polaroid back on it just because all the photographers I shot with big cameras. I was like, I should get a big camera. And, I was like, that's all I knew. But the reason why, it was during the internet boom, and some smart Harvard dude that I sailed with said, hey, give me some of your money. Let's put it into stock. So we would go sailing, come back in, and there'd be like we just were making money like crazy. And then the internet bust happened, and I lost everything. But in the meantime, I got a Mamiya 645 and a darkroom from B&H. And that's how I started, and that was in 2000. And I got into shooting models. I started shooting the guys at the agency. Didn't shoot girls. I did not shoot women because I didn't have a makeup artist. I just knew that the women needed makeup, the guys didn't. So I was like, I'm going to shoot guys. So everybody thought I was great at shooting guys. I started shooting women. Then they said I'm great at shooting women. I can't shoot guys well. I was like, I don't know who to please. What can you do?
Well, what's so striking to me about that narrative is, you know, in my world of portrait and weddings, everyone's concerned and all fuffle about moms with cameras or even brides with cameras who get the itch and then they all want to become a photographer. And you're in a totally different genre. You're the model with camera, and that just happened. I mean, is that a phenomenon? Is that actually something that's common where talent goes and picks it up?
Yeah, a lot. It's very common. There's not that many that break through. I have a ton of friends that have done it, you know, and to get to the level, I've been fortunate enough to get to a level where I run my own business and I have a, you know, successful thing going on. A lot of them pick it up, try it, put it down, go back to modeling, fiddle, dabble. Some of them have fairly decent careers going on, but some have been extremely successful as well. You know, over the years. I mean, Bruce Weber was a model. Richard Avedon told him to pick up a camera.
Fantastic.
So I feel like I'm just, you know.
Well, I'm guessing, I mean, some of the advantage of that, especially with professional models, is they get the advantage, and you've had the advantage of being on both sides of the camera extensively, not just like token. And I'm guessing that informs your ability to pose your subject and really interact with the subject in a way that impacts them constructively. Is that fair?
I think so. I think that's a big part of it. I think even a bigger part of it is seeing the level of work that's going on at the top. I think that's more of it. You're in the mix. Even though I didn't know I was going to be a photographer, I was still in the mix. So I saw these ad campaigns and these stuff. And then when I became a photographer, I saw the stuff that I wanted to shoot being produced. Yeah. So just being aware of how that kind of happens is the most helpful. And of course, being in front of the camera, I mean, I don't know, I think I know a lot more about expression now than I did when I was modeling.
Sure.
I mean, I look at my pictures when I'm modeling, I think I had a lot going on, I knew what I was doing. But when I first picked up a camera, the modeling didn't help me convey that to the actor or model.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to do that, and that's one of the first things I decided when I started shooting, because I get this blank human being in front of me, and I'd be like, what do I say to this person to make them look cool?
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I don't think anybody knows. I mean, people figure it out, I guess, but that's what I preach and I talk about, and that's all, you know, all it is for me at this stage of the game.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm going to get back to that in a second, because I think that there is something that's striking to me about the evolution of someone at your level of game. Because I hear this a lot, is, you know, they'll focus specifically on the interaction or the transaction with the client, or pulling the most out of them, or doing something special with them, with a real understated regard for technique, or getting all the gear set right. Like, it could be partly because you know how to do that, like blindfolded, and you've done it for so long, I'm guessing. But what I'm really struck by is you get to the heart of the matter once you're matured in the industry. And is that accurate or fair to say that because there's less chatter about the gear and the setup and the technique at your level, it's because it's taken for granted, or it really just isn't as important?
I really don't. I mean, what I say is you could have the best lighting, best gear, best camera, best makeup artist, most beautiful model, and they look in the camera blank and you don't have a shot. So is it really the gear, or is it the photographer? And I think it's the photographer, because I also talk about, I think that the best light in the world is free. And we're all trying to emulate it with these things behind me and stuff like that. And the sun is free, and if you go outside and you learn how to manipulate the sun so that you're using natural light to light your subjects in an interesting way, I think that's the best anyway. I don't do it because of volume and time and running around and having to, the amount of people I would need around me with reflectors and whatever, or whatever I want to do. I do it on, commercial jobs or jobs where I'm out of the studio. But, my style, it kind of came into being for simplicity purposes, and my style is simple anyway. I like simplicity. So it's, it's a white background, it's simple lighting, and it's about interaction.
Well, let's talk about this for a second, because you and I have a common friend in Zack Arias, and I remember watching his One Light workshop. He's been on the show a long time ago, and one of the things that Zack mentions in his One Light workshop is if he could do it all over again, because he shot bands forever, and now he does a whole bunch of really cool things. But he said that he kind of wishes he would gone back and just started if he was starting over again right now, he would do a head shop. And I was really struck by that comment. Like, wow, the viability of that, is that doable? Can someone actually build a career around it? And then I run across you in person and kind of see your setup and see how busy you are. And for those of you who don't know, before the show started, we actually had to wait 15 minutes because the phone wouldn't stop ringing. I mean, and I was sitting there going like, did you set this up? Like, it's literally non-stop people calling you, and you're saying, yeah, just pay me cash, pay me this, pay me that. And it's remarkable to me that you have such volume of work at the price point that you're shooting at. But I'm saying all this as backdrop because when Zack said that, I was inspired by what he said. I get to meet you. I see you actually doing it. And now I'm hearing your background of what it took to get into this role. If you didn't have the background that you did, if let's say you didn't have the model, you didn't have the vision, you didn't have someone as esteemed as you did, say pick up a camera, but you knew what you know now, and you were starting out, how would you be spending your time on the front end of your career? What would you be doing? First thing.
I would be getting as many people in front of my camera as possible. If you're passionate about photography, you're going to figure it out. It'll happen. It's going to come. And you've got to look. I used to look at the quality of what the people at the top of the industry were doing. If I'm at the top of the end, I happen to be fortunate enough to be at the top of the headshot industry. Look at the quality of my work. Look at who else you think is at the top of the game and making the most money and doing the most, and figure out what it is that they're doing or how they're doing or how to get close to it so that, you can emulate that. I mean, I was really looking at the work being done by the people that I love the most, which was, there's a handful of photographers out there that I really respect and enjoy, and that's okay. You can leave them in here. Sorry, my dogs are running around.
No problem. My dog might run in at any moment. So I think you met Zoe when you were here last in California. So.
I did. Zoe's a rock star. She's awesome.
Hey, what do you think about headshots in geographical markets? I know this is a question that's going to come up for a lot of folks listening in. If they're like in Cleveland or they're in New Mexico and they're not in New York or LA or Miami like you are, how viable is it to run a headshot business?
I think is growing. We're actually in a market where visibility online and your personal online stamp and image is so important. So, I mean, I don't know many people who are in business who aren't on LinkedIn. And if they're not, they're getting on soon, because a lot of people immediately, if resumes go out, people are going to LinkedIn to check out these people and what they've done.
Sure.
So your LinkedIn profile shot has to be amazing. I mean, it just has to be. So in every city, there's going to be that. There's real estate brokers in every city. They
Absolutely. Real estate's huge.
Right. There's lawyers in every city that all need it. There are actors in every city probably that want to get to New York or LA. I just think that with the way that the internet's going and how visual we are, look at us right now. We're chatting on Skype and showing people this later, and everybody needs to have their image nailed down online and have their personal brand intact, no matter what it is they're doing. To me, that's...
Well, that's interesting, because I mean, so much of your work is with actors and models and so forth, but it sounds like you're just broadening the scope. Do you really think that there's an industry for avatars I think
there's somewhat there's definitely, I mean, there's an industry for everything. There's stuff growing like crazy. I just I think, can you make a living in a little town on headshots? maybe not. But if you're a good photographer, you're going to be broadening and doing family portraits and weddings and senior portraits and whatever else comes down the pike. I do whatever comes down the pike still. You know, I really don't. I don't. You know, limit what I'm doing to just headshots. You know,
but that's striking though, because I mean, if you go to peterhurley.com, without question, everyone knows what your brand and your commitment is. So that other work isn't showing up on your site, but you're taking the work, which I think is shrewd.
Well, I mean, I shot a kid's catalog this morning. I did a lookbook for a fashion designer that I've shot for the last 8 years, I guess. 10 years. I've shot her work for 10 years. So I don't really push kids stuff because it's not, you know, something that it's difficult. First of all, it's challenging.
Sure.
A bunch of kids I'm screaming at, you know. Trying to get something out of a kid is a different ball game than an adult. But sometimes they're easier. So, you know, sometimes they're way more difficult.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a wrangler on set. But you know, I did that. I'm not going to, you know, throw that client to the wayside because I'm shooting headshots most of the time. But you know, I do whatever comes down. Whatever's happening next week. I happen to be doing a slew of headshots all week. But that's just, you know, that's what's happening.
What about and we've talked a little bit about this offline, the difference between East Coast, West Coast and their attitude. I mean, and maybe this has more to do with actors than anyone else in that particular niche of headshots, but talk a little bit about the cultural difference of East Coast, West Coast around price point and headshots.
Yeah, it's funny. This is what I found, that as an actor, when I was acting, before I picked up a camera, there's a lot of respect for New York trained actors. And
mainly, is that like because of classic like stage trained stuff, or what's that about?
I just think people go. Maybe it's just. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do Broadway, you're going to be in New York, obviously.
No question.
Most people who train in the conservatories and stuff, they make a decision. They're either going to LA and New York, and it could be based on their showcase performance and whether or not an agent likes them in LA or likes them more in New York. But a lot of times, if you're, you know, just all of a sudden live in whatever, Boise, Idaho, and decide I want to be famous, you're going to go to LA. Right. You know, and you haven't trained, you're just going. Right. You end up in LA and you maybe start taking acting classes and stuff. And the classically trained people are really in New York. And I've just found that the game in New York is a lot different. I mean, these people are on the ball. And even the New York actors that are transplants that go to LA, they just seem a lot more they're more serious about their careers in general. Even like getting headshots, they don't show up late, they don't flake. LA people that are just in LA seem to do that. And then the photographers in LA, I did not create the $1,000 headshot. It was already here in New York. I just saw it when I started shooting, and I was like, wow, these headshot photographers are charging $1,000. Holy smokes! Right? You know,
And you charge more. And you charge more than that, buddy. Come on, because you're $1,100 plus. There's makeup plus. I mean, we're getting close to $1,400. So
yeah, I mean, you know, but I mean, basically what happened was I was shooting. Casting directors love my stuff, and they would send me a million people, and they'd be like, "Look, this person just shot with the $1,000 headshot photographer. You're charging $650. I'm sending you to fix it. You're fixing this person's work, and you're better than them. Why are you charging less?" So people would come to me and they wouldn't shoot with me because they thought something was wrong. So the casting director would be like, "You got to raise your rates." So I was like, every month I was busy, I raised them $50.
I love it.
It got to $1,000, and I was like, all right, I'm the same as all these people. There were like 3 or 4 people in New York that were at $1,000, I guess. And I was like, let me go to $1,050. I went to $1,050, and then I'm like, I'm at $1,050. I might as well go $1,100, and that was in August of 2006. I remember, you know, and I haven't changed it since. But you know, in LA, there's nobody that's $1,100. The most expensive guy, there is one person that's $985 or something is what I've heard. Maybe years ago there was a guy that was over $1,000, but I don't think so anymore. And I think a lot of the photographers with the recession are adjusting their prices. But I think the average cost of a headshot in New York is probably somewhere around $600. Yeah, maybe $550. The average cost of a headshot in LA is probably $200.
Yeah, I was going to say $250. Right, right.
So that's the difference. So can you make a living in LA? people are doing it.
Right.
They're doing it based on volume. I know a guy that's booked out through April, or whatever, and he's complaining about how busy. I'm like, raise your rates. What are you doing?
Right.
And they're just afraid to raise their rates out there. So I had a conversation with him, and he said he was raising them. So, but yeah, I mean, there is a market there. Jumping into it's tough because every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a camera. Figuring out your personal style and getting it in place and starting to work it there is something that needs to be done. But I have this ph2pro.com site.
Yeah.
Which I obviously wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
But I have a guy that's on that's in Portland, Oregon, and he is just shooting up a storm. And I'm like I'm like, this guy's and it just really amazes me that he's working all the time and he's in a smaller market. So it can be done.
Sure.
I'm seeing guys doing it.
Well, but one of the reasons why I think it is being done, and this is kudos to you, is that you realized you couldn't scale your time, even though you're maxed out and you're booked out at a high price point, that there is a market for folks who can't quite stretch to you but really want quality work. And you created this Peter Hurley 2 or ph2pro.com site that opened the door for people that you are actually taking under their wing, or you're taking them under your wing, and really making sure that they wouldn't get to have your name on their brand without that kind of stamp of approval. Talk a little bit about your vision for that, and if folks who are listening and they're like, no, I'm serious about my game and I'd like to have a shot at something like that, what they would want to do.
Well, it basically the concept came to me in 2007. I was shooting, I was charging $1,100. People would call in and say, hey, I need a headshot. How much is it? It's $1,100. I'd hear click. I was like, that person needs this service. I can't do it for them because I need to keep my rates consistent, but I could guide them to somebody that could, and I could train that person, and I could make a cut off of that person, and then I'd have a viable business option. So we did it, and it was really successful in New York and LA, piggybacking off of my popularity in those markets.
Yeah.
And then what we started to do is I opened it up for the world, and I just said, hey, send me, like photographers would say, hey, I saw this. What is this all about? And it was really small. It was just like, hey, contact me. I'd look at people's headshots. I'd be like, you're pretty good. I'll say you're in London, whatever. Right. And what it was is I would send these referrals. So I had a guy in San Francisco. I had a guy in D.C., guy in Miami, and what I would do is a guy in Texas, I would send them referrals. Yep. And I just get a referral fee if they shot the person.
Right.
And then that went along like that for a little while, and I went, well, let's do this on a bigger scale. Let's do it now that I started coaching and teaching and doing my workshops. I was like, I'm honing these photographers for this. So I was like, well, why not get them involved? So what it is it's a pretty interesting site. It's a referral engine for headshot photography is really what it is. So this guy in Portland, actually, I did a spree cast the other night, and he came on and he said that his site on PH2 now gets higher up in Google searches than his own site in Portland. So he's getting referrals through my site, and we haven't even launched it yet.
Wow.
So I am charged. So it's going to be a coaching and a referral engine. And what's going to happen is I'm going to coach these people into having amazing portfolios. And then hopefully the referrals start coming in. Meanwhile, I'm hand selecting everybody. There's different levels of the program. The lowest level is the free. It's free for everybody to sign up. Go sign up, make a gallery, go to ph2pro.com, have fun, fiddle with the site. There's a public area where you can see some of the inner stuff going on. And then there's a coaching area, which is, I call it my protege coaching. And they'll be able to upgrade to that. We haven't launched yet. We're still in beta. So we're launching hopefully in the next 2 weeks, something like that. But people can sign up for free, and then when we launch, it's $20 a month to be in the coaching program. The people that are in the coaching program, I'm going to go sift through them. Whoever's got a good portfolio will be invited to submit a portfolio to me to be an associate photographer, and those are the photographers that get attached to peterhurley.com, and then we're going to be throwing referrals their way.
It's fantastic, dude. And honestly, it's not only is it a great business model for you, but it's actually a great service for so many folks. I think that there is just a real challenge in as an educator. I can really relate to folks who they'll go to an event, they'll go to a workshop, and they'll get a lot of great content, and then they'll go home with kind of deer in the headlights, overwhelmed, not sure how to work this out in real life, not sure if they're going to have the courage to take the first step. And to have this kind of viable business model alongside on a national level that's taking advantage of the digital tools we have available to us for you to walk people through concrete coaching in real time and to have a stake in it and their success and your success in them. It's great. It's going to help a lot of people out in a world where, we see journalists getting fired every day and photographers who really want to keep this pro thing going. They need a system and a structure like the one you provided. So good for you, man, and good for our industry. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, it's great. Right now we have 250. Let me see if I have it up. We have 200 and. Let me see. I got it up right here. Hold on. It's telling me that I have 260 photographers from 24 countries that have submitted 2,061 photos in 246 galleries and counting.
That's not so bad.
We haven't launched yet, and we have 260 photographers involved. It's worldwide. I want it to be the place for people serious about headshots. We want to capture clients through this site. We want it to get big enough with Google searches in whatever area that people are going to this site for their headshot needs in the future. And I think we're going to be able to provide them with pretty awesome photographers. I just had a guy come in today from Vienna, asked me if he could come in the studio, and he hung out with me for a little bit. I told him about it, and he's like, I didn't know this, but in Vienna you can't take pictures. You have to like take a test and you're not allowed to charge or take. It's like crazy. He's like, I have to take my test. I was like, what? Wow. I was like, if I had to take a test, I would be screwed. I never took a photography course. How am I going to take a test? I was like, no way.
Wow. Well, it's funny. Like this, it's a bummer. This show is only a half hour, and the reason it's a half hour is because we don't want to make the same mistake of overwhelming people. We do want people to be inspired by what they're hearing. Maybe take one or two or three things from this, go apply for it, go take action with what they're learning, and that's the purpose. But Peter, I want to have you back on again. There's so many things that come to mind. I know that you have some really great things in the pipeline that we talked about offline that you're not able to talk about just yet. I want to be able to talk about those when they're coming online. I would actually like to have you back on sometime and do a little work to have people understand the nuance of lips and eyebrows and eyes and really treating the subject within this frame and seriously and how that can be manipulated, not just shaping with light but shaping the subject relative to light. You're so good at those things. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to beg, borrow, and steal to get you back on here again if you're up for it.
I loved hanging out with you. I'm happy to come on whenever you have something that would be nice for us to talk about.
Awesome. Well, one thing for sure, if you're at home and you're watching this, number one, big shout out to, by the way, I need to be careful because, Peter, he works with the fine folks at B&H Photo, but this show, unfortunately, is sponsored by our friends at Adorama. So I'm going to say thanks to Adorama.
I work with them at Pro Services too. So.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. Number two, go to fstoppers.com, fstoppers.com. If you haven't gone there already or aren't a regular there. And on their front page, you should be able to see Peter's DVD. If you can't see it easily, just go to peterhurley.com. It's spelled like it sounds, Peterhurley, just like the guy in Lost. And peterhurley.com, and click on the DVD. You'll see it there. And I think you have a pretty extensive trailer, if I remember right, that 20-minute thing. Yeah. Just watch it. I dare you to watch it and not get it. Don't watch it unless you're going to get it, because you're going to buy the DVD. It's really phenomenal. And I hope you take advantage of it. And then, of course, ph2pro.com is the other site we want to see. Is that right?
That's it, yeah.
All right. Hey, man, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
And Peter at Peter Hurley on the Twitter and peterhurley.com.
Peter_Hurley.
Thank you. Peter
Couldn't
underscore.
Get at Peter Hurley. That guy, some guy, he's miserable because all sorts of people hit him up.
Dane Sanders has the same problem. I'm with you. All right, man. Well, have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
All right. Thanks a lot. Okay, bye, guys. All right.